What's up, guys? This is Terrence Lewis with LewisHelps, helping veterans, military, their families become financially free through real estate and financial literacy. This video here, ready to be a landlord? The do's and don'ts. Coming up right now. All right, guys, it's your first time being a landlord. Welcome to the club. If you're watching this video, that means you're ready to buy an investment property or you just bought an investment property. I'm gonna share with you guys the do's and the don'ts, definitely things you have to know if you're going to invest in real estate and have rental property. These are gonna be some of the things that have, over the years, after owning over 15 units at one time, these are things that I've learned over the years that are do's and don'ts, things that you just have to consider and must know once you're getting into becoming a landlord. Okay, guys, so we'll dive right in. I've got a couple notes here, but we'll dive right in. Let's jump in. Let's get this content. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you like more content like this, and follow. Please share this information if you know anybody that's taking this journey and can use this information. So thank you for being with me. Thank you for your service. Let's jump right in. Let's get to it. So let me go ahead and give you guys a few tips that I've experienced over the years with becoming a landlord. Becoming a landlord sometimes can be intimidating for people, having to feel like you're managing other people and controlling what people do and how they do it, and it could just be overwhelming and can shine people off from investing in all the great benefits of investing in real estate. So I want to give you some things to understand and ways you can avoid, maybe put yourself at ease with investing in real estate so you don't have to feel that way and avoid some of those pitfalls that I've experienced in investing in rental properties. Okay, guys? Which brings me to point number one. When investing in real estate, analyzing the numbers and figuring out if you want to get, if you're going and getting these rental properties, first and foremost, calculate property management. So it's kind of like saying, how do I become a landlord? Don't be a landlord, right? You're still going to have to do some things where we're going to share some more of those tips on other things that you're going to have to consider, because ultimately, like owning a company, you are ultimately in charge. The management company is just taking your guidance. So first and foremost, hire a property manager. Make sure that when you're buying an investment property, the numbers make sense when you buy a property with investment. You want to take that burden on, you want to be gung-ho, you want to take that burden on and save yourself some money and property manage, that's fine. But still make sure it makes sense with hiring a property management, because you're going to get to a point where either you get too old or you get tired or your job changes or a variable changes and you can't just up and leave the property sometimes, depending on where you live, and sell the property. Plus you're doing it for a reason, so you want to make sure you can carry that out. Okay, guys? So tip number one, hire property management. They typically range, I've invested in Florida, I've invested in Maine, Houston, California, all across the country, and most places I've invested, the standard is about 10%. So account for about 10% of your rental income to go to property management companies, okay? The second tip I can give you is, unless you're investing in a particular niche, I always tell people when you're investing in rental properties, create a criteria for what you're looking for. So as you're out there searching, you're not just going in whatever direction. You're not going for multifamilies if you invest in single families. You're not going for condos, mobile homes. You have an understanding of what you invest in. Find your investment vehicle and go that route. So my tip number two is, I like to deal with Section 8 tenants. Section 8 tenants are great because it's guaranteed money. You know you don't have to rely on that tenant typically to bring you the money. If they do pay, they pay a small percentage of the rent, which is very easy to for them to come up with. So investing in starting off in your career, investing in Section 8 tenants are a very good way, or housing or government assistance type tenants are a very good way to ensure that you don't have financial struggles when investing in rental property. So investing in properties in areas that are predominantly Section 8. You don't have to be in the ghetto, in the hoods, in the bad areas, but definitely look into the areas where predominantly Section 8 tenants, or the numbers make sense for a Section 8. Third tip, don't over or under renovate. And what that means is basically don't take this on as a property like you're going to live in it. Okay, I always preach duplexes and Typically, some of the strategies I give people in owning duplexes is live in one side, rent out the other, fix up that side while you're in it, and then when that tenant moves out, you switch over, fix that side up, and that's how you do rent control. That's how you overall raise the rents of the area. But if you're in an area where you're gonna do Section 8 renters, you wouldn't do backsplash. You might do faux backsplash. You wouldn't do granite countertops. You might do faux granite. You wouldn't do hardware on your cabinetry. You would leave it standard. You wouldn't do travertine floors. You would just do carpet that can be replaced very inexpensive. So these are some of the things that you consider when renovating. Paint, baseboard, things that are going to have to be repeated every time somebody moves out. New carpet, new baseboard, new paint, and stay neutral with your renovation. So I'm just going to blend that one in with that tip. Stay neutral. Don't make the colors crazy. Stay with the standard apartment style beige or that yellowish beige colors and whites. These are things that go with everyone's furniture. So make sure you consider that when you're going in and you're doing your painting and you're renovating. Don't go over and don't go under. Don't be a slumlord. Consider these people are, your renters are going to have children in there, they're going to have guests in there, health and hazard, and make sure that it's a place that you would at least live. So that is going to be my tip for that one right there. No tenant rights. As veterans or military or families of military, you understand that we've traveled a lot. And some things are okay in the East Coast that are not okay in the West Coast. I know in Texas, if someone doesn't pay your rent, you can literally go into the house and take their TV and say, I'm hoarding your TV. Well, the tenant right is that they can actually just ask for their TV back, but you can actually do that. Well, in the state of Maine or in the state of California, you can't even go into the house without a 24-hour notice. You have to leave a notice on the door that says you're going to be entering the dwelling to either show it to sell it or to inspect it or whatever it is. You have to give a notice of 24 hours. So know your tenant rights. Even though you're not managing the property, understand your rights. You don't want to get yourself into trouble because you could end up losing your property or getting yourself into some trouble with not understanding the law. So understand the laws for your area, understand tenant rights, and respect your tenants, okay? The other aspect to it is legally you can hold your properties in LLCs, but that's a whole nother video on legal structuring. So understand what type of way you want to structure your property. You don't necessarily want to have them all in your name, especially if you're going to be stacking up properties and buying multiple properties, because you don't want to be vulnerable to a slip and fall or something happening and your whole portfolio that you've built of properties is now, or your personal property of your home and your car and your things, your kids' college fund, you don't want that to be at risk. So make sure you look into the legal ramifications of how you want to hold your property to protect your personal assets. So that's another tip there to consider. Be on time. Your property management, if you want to do property, this is for those that want to do property management themselves. I'm sure you're going to have to read a whole book on property management to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing on a property management level. But make sure you're sending your letters, your notices of default, your notices of payment on time. In the court of law, everything for tenants are timely. Did you send a 7-day notice? And then did you send a 30-day notice? And then you have this amount of time for a court date. Well, if you're behind the power curve because they're late on their rent and you're waiting 15, 20 days before you even start the letter process, time is money. Your property is worth whatever it's worth by the day. So take your rent amount, divide it by the 30 days, and that's what your property is worth per day. So every day you're falling behind the power curve with evictions, you can get yourself into that security deposit they left can get eaten up just from having to cover the mortgage the next month because you couldn't get them out, or legal fees. So make sure you're on time with things, which leads me to my number one landlord tip, which is make it hurt. I know that sucks to say, but you got to make it hurt. You got to be the priority. You can live without a car. You can live without your phone. You can live without TV, cable. You can't live without roofing over your head. You have the number one priority over the gas bill, over the electric bill. If you don't pay for gas, you can plug up your electricity and get heat that way. Never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever let a tenant go on the rent. Is what I would say. Never let them have leeway on the rent. If they're late, maybe they're third or fourth, if they've been in the house for 2-3 years, you've got to make that judgment call. But when you get a renter and it's month 3 or month 4 or month 6 and they're late that first time, your heart wants to just bleed out and say, I understand your baby broke his leg, or I understand this happened, but it's a slippery slope. Once you become that one that they know can have leeway on it, your mortgage company is not going to stop collecting the payment on the first. You need your money on the first. So make sure that if they're late, you give them the notice of eviction right away, and you hit them with that late fee. I understand it's gonna hurt, but I promise you're only gonna have to do it one time. It's like getting a spanking when you're a kid. It hurts, but you've got to do it. So do that, make it hurt, and stick it, make that happen. The last tip that I would recommend is a floating rent. So what this means, I call it floating rent, but really what it means is it's a sure way to back up that last point that I made with making it hurt. And here's the example. So basically, if you have rent and you want $1,200 for rent each month, what I would do is I would advertise it as $1,200, or maybe advertise it as $1,300. And then when they come to view the property and take a look at the property, make sure that they know the rent is actually $1,300, but if you pay on or before the first, you will actually get a $100 discount. So you'll actually only pay $1,200 a month. So if you know you want 12, make the rent $1,300, and then let them know if you pay on or before the first, it's actually $1,200, so they feel like they're getting a $100 discount if they're paying on time. And then, so that goes to that point of make it hurt. Let's say that they're late and you charge a late fee after 7 days, it's going to be the $1,300 plus the $75 late fee. That's gonna hurt. So I guarantee you, they're probably not gonna be coming to you next month, or whenever they get into an issue, they're going to make sure they have their rent. They don't want a $175 fee next time, and you're not going to have to deal with that problem. But you can avoid all of that with tip number one. Make sure you account for property management when becoming a landlord. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys got some good content from it. If you know anybody who needs it, share it. Don't forget to like, subscribe this video. And for more information like this, please, like I said, subscribe to my videos. This is LewisHelps. Thank you for your service. I'm out.